Prabhu, Daya Koro Hari.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karamare
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Koro Hari.
Toma Bina Ke Dayalu Jagata Jantare
Tuma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagata Samsari.
Atyanta Durlabha Prema Kori Bhare Dha. Sorry. Aha Prabhu Patita Pavana Hetu Tave Mosamapatita Prabhu Napai Mosamapatita Prabhu Napai Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi
Mahaprabhu Nityananda Mananda
Kripa Kara Bana Kara Ami Baradukhi
Sakara
Kripa Bana Gana Kara Ami Baradukhi Daya Kara Sitapati Advaita Daya Kara Sitapati Advaita Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya Tava Kripa Bale Pai Chaitanya
Rupa
Rupa
Raghunatha
Bhatta Juga Shri Jiva Prabhu Lokanath
Bhatta Juga Shri
Jiva
Deva
Prabhu
Prabhu Lokanatha
Bhatta Juga Shri Jiva Prabhu Lokanath
Bhatta Juga Shri Deva Prabhu Lokanatha
Daya Karo Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas
Daya Koro Shri Acharya Prabhu
Daya Karo Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas
Prabhu Shri
Ramachandra Sangamage Garutamada Garutamada Ramachandra Sangamage Garutamada
Ramachandra
Sangamage Daya Karo Sitapati Advaita Daya Karo Sitapati Advaita Tava Kripa Bale Tava Kripa Bale Chaitanya जय श्री अद्वैत सप्तमी महामहोत्सव की जय जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद अभय शरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत गोस्वामी ठाकुर श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णवृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण को गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी की गंगा मई की जमुना मई की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution ki, all grace to the assembled devotees, all grace to the assembled devotees, all grace to the assembled devotees, all grace to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all grace to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda,
Ananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay, so we'll read today from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, could you please let me do it, Chandan?
Oh, 1 second. Okay.
Okay. Okay, great. So today we'll read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Adi Leela, chapter 12, text number 6. Okay, this is it. What do you say? Okay. So we'll read a few purports and we'll get into it accordingly. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela.
Oh, it's not working for some reason.
It's not working? My screen share is not working?
It's only sharing part of the screen.
Oh, okay. Let me try again. How about now?
Yeah.
It's good?
Hmm.
Okay. So we'll read a few verses and a few purports and we'll just go with it. So, Prathame
Prathame
Tam
Tom
Ekam
Eka
Mata
Mata
Acharjera
Chagira
Gana
Gona
Pache
Pase
Dui
Dui
Mata
Mata
Haila
Hilo
Daivera
Hiro
Karan
Karan
Prathameta Eka Mata Acharjera Gan
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daivera Karan
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan
Prathameta Eka Mata Acharjera Gan
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daivera Karan
Pase
Pache
Dui
Dui
Mata
Mata
Hilo
Haila
Daibero
Daibero
Karan
Prathameta Eka Mata Acharjera Gan
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daivera Karan
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan
Prathameta Eka Mata Acharjera Gan
Prathame to ek
Eka
mata
Mata
Acharjira Gan
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daivera Karan
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan
So please repeat.
Prathameta ekamata acharyiragana
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pachidvi mata haila daivira
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daibero Karan Pratameta Eka Mata Acharya Gan
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pache Dui Mata Haila Daibero Karan
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
Pratameta Eka Mata Acharya Gan
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan
Pache Dui
Karan. Anyone else want to do it?
प्रथमेत एकमत आचार्यरगन्
Prathame to ek mata Acharjira Gan
पाचे दुई मत हईल दैवेर कारण
Pase Dui Mata Hilo Daibero Karan
Okay. Prathame
Prathame
in the beginning.
in the beginning
However,
However,
Ekamata,
Ekamata,
one opinion.
one opinion.
Acharjera,
Acharya,
Advaita Acharya.
Advaita Acharya,
Gana,
Gana,
followers.
followers,
Pache,
Pache,
later.
Peter,
Duimata,
Vimata,
opinions.
two opinions.
Aila
Aila
became
became
Daivera
Advaita
of Providence.
of Providence.
Karan,
Karan,
cause.
because
A translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai Prabhupada.
At first, all the followers of Advaita Acharya shared a single opinion. But later, they followed two different opinions as ordained by Providence. Purport. The words Daivera Karan indicate that by dint of providence or by God's will, the followers of Acharya, Advaita Acharya, divided into two parties. Such disagreement among the disciples of one Acharya is also found among the members of the Gaudiya Math. In the beginning, during the presence of Om Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Stotra Shri Sriman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, all the disciples worked in agreement. But just after his disappearance, they disagreed. One party strictly followed the instructions of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but another group created their own concoction by executing his desires. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next Acharya. But just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of Acharya. And then they split into two factions over who the next Acharya would be. Consequently, both the factions were asara, or useless. Because they had no authority, having disobeyed the orders of the spiritual master, despite the spiritual master's order to form a governing body and execute the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math. The two unauthorized factions began litigation. This is still going on after 40 years with no decision. Could you please put this on Do Not Disturb? Therefore, we do not belong to any faction. But because the two parties are busy in dividing the material assets of the Gaudiya Math institution, stopped the preaching work, we took up the mission of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur to preach the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Under the protection of all the predecessor acharyas, and we find that our humble attempt has been successful. We followed the principles especially explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita verse beginning Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana. According to this instruction of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it is the duty of a disciple to follow strictly the orders of his spiritual master. The secret of success and advancement of spiritual life is firm faith of the disciple in the orders of the spiritual master. The Vedas confirm this. Yasya deva para bhaktir yata deva tata guru tasyate katita yarta prakashanti mahatmanaha. To one who has staunch faith in the words of the spiritual master and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the secret of success in Vedic knowledge is revealed. The Krishna consciousness movement is being propagated according to this principle, and therefore our preaching work is going on successfully. In spite of many impediments offered by antagonistic demons, because we're getting positive help from our previous acharyas. One may judge every action by its result. The members of the self-appointed acharya's party who occupied the property of the Gaudiya Math are satisfied, but they could make no progress in preaching. Therefore, by the results of their actions, one should know that they are asar, or useless, whereas the success of the ISKCON party, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which strictly follows Guru and Gauranga, is increasing day by day all over the world. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to print as many books as possible and distribute them all over the world. We have tried our best in this connection and we're getting results beyond our expectation. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utafpata Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishamamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vandavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namine Harijana Ganabari Gnana Karmandahari Prakritita Para Bhaktir Bhakti Siddhanta Kanti Vinay Nikara Lakshmi Nimna Medaya Gamyo Bhuvijayate Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Rajajana Savedi Prachita Shri Jayasri Sahaparikara Gaurang Rankita Swanta Bhumihi Bhona Vidata Tirtha Soma Kirte Vitai Bhuvijayate Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangam Langaite Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Yasya Deve Parabhaktir Yata Deve Tata Guru Tasyate Katita Hyata Prakashante Mahatmanaha. So thank you Chandracharya Prabhu for giving me this opportunity to speak on the ecstatic appearance of Advaita Acharya. It's very important, a very sober day actually, because we see that Advaita Acharya, he's the reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended into this material world. We read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 6, Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi Leela chapter 2, that Advaita Acharya had performed this, he was feeling compassion, looking at the entire society of Nadia at that time, how they were just busy worshipping yakshas and lower living entities and just becoming gross materialists, not caring even a little bit about worship of Lord Vishnu. So just Advaita Acharya, along with a handful of Vaishnavas who would hold Bhakti Vriksha programs in their home. And Advaita Acharya's wife, Sita Thakurani, she is a phenomenal, excellent cook. So they used to have the full program. Ecstatic Kirtan, ecstatic classes given by Advaita Acharya himself. So that's pretty fired up. If Mahavishnu himself is giving you a Bhagavad Gita class. And
Your volume is quite low.
my volume is low?
Yeah, the phone needs to be closer to you.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a mic I could connect to this mic? No? Okay. I must have it in my backpack, but that'll be... Anyway, if does this work? Is what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does this work? Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the last thing y'all heard from what I said?
Sita Thakurani. Oh,
If
Mahavishnu
Mahavishnu
giving
gives
Gita
a
class.
Bhagavad Gita class, it's a fired up class.
Okay. So you can imagine if Mahavishnu himself is giving you a Bhagavad Gita class, that's going to be pretty fired up, right? And he would do that, and he would hold these festivals, these satsangs together, and the devotees would just be completely absorbed in ecstasy, hearing Advaita Acharya speak. And sometimes, it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that's when Advaita Acharya would give the Bhagavad Gita classes, some devotees would not understand the meaning properly. And there's one verse in the Isha Upanishad. What happened?
Anyways, there was a loud noise. A big piece of the tree just like fell off. Yeah, it was really weird. I don't know if it like froze off or what. It was like huge pieces of tree just fell.
Okay.
Sorry.
We can take shelter of transcendental sound vibration. There's nothing else you could do. If are the windows closed and the doors closed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the heat running?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Do you have? There's a heater behind you, so that should work.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's like, do you have some boga to make some preparation for the Lord today?
Yeah.
Some water to drink?
Yeah.
Rishi Kumar, bro, you have your laptop. You could work.
Yeah, that's all I need.
Then I think you're all set. So,
Jen.
so we can see. So Advaita Acharya sometimes he would there's a verse especially described in the Isha Upanishad. Sarvata Panipadam Tat. Sarvata Panipadam Tat. Sarva Shiromukam something. I'm forgetting one word of this verse. So he was unable to understand or explain how is it that Mahavishnu was unable to explain, but he was performing the pastime that he was unable to understand this verse, how he could present it properly. So Advaita Acharya would, when he would not understand the meaning of a verse properly, what he would do is he would fast until he would understand the meaning.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So that's far out. Yeah, do not imitate Advaita Acharya. So otherwise we would be dead. We would be malnourished. But he would do that, right? And then this one verse, when he was unable to understand, he was fasting and fasting, and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a dream and said, "Don't worry, very soon I'll explain to you the meaning of this verse." So he told this to Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya gave up, and he took honored the Lord's prasadam. It was very nice. So Advaita Acharya, feeling compassionate to the Supreme Personality, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being compassionate toward the jivas who were there in front of him, seeing how they're suffering the pangs of material existence, seeing how they're forgetting Krishna, keeping the material economic development as the main goal in life. To see, just completely forgetting the goal of life, right? Completely forgetting the goal of life in the name of Dharma, right? That's why we read in the Bhagavatam, Dharma sarvasita pumsam vishvakshena katasuya nohotpadiyat yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam, right? What does that mean?
If
Prabhupada
one,
would quote this often, huh?
if one poems prescribes duties, but it does not invoke love of God, then his activities are useless. All labor is
Yeah,
useless.
yeah,
Attract the message.
Attracted for the message of the personality of
right,
God.
right. So we see, right? So they're doing all these things, but they're not developing, right? They're not developing rati unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because they're unable to do that, it's considered to be a complete waste of time. Actually, whatever dharma they were doing, and on top of that, Vaishnavas were looked at as, oh, just look at these poor fools. Just look, they would offend Kolavechi Sridhar. It breaks our heart to even say what they would say, but they would say, just see, this guy is just doing some drama of feeling love of God and fainting on the floor, but doesn't even have enough to feed himself. He's doing all this so people will give him some food to eat. And all these kinds of things, very, very offensive things towards the Vaishnavas. And Advaita Acharya Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, they were really good friends. And they were praying for the Supreme Lord to fervently appear. So Advaita Acharya Prabhu, by his loud cries, he would every day, what he would do, so he would worship Shalagram Shila along with Ganga water and some tulasi, and he would offer to the Shalagram Shila. And he would loudly call out the holy names. He would loudly call out the holy names, like really loud. Hare Krishna. Can you imagine? His chanting is so loud that it would penetrate through the wall or to the roof of the place where he's staying, and then keep going, and it would penetrate through the first cover towards like all the 14 planetary systems, then penetrate to the first covering of the universe, second, all the way to the seventh covering, and then go all the way everywhere, and then finally where the Supreme Lord is just sleeping on Ananta Shesh, he's awoken by the loud sound of him calling him.
That's
So
crazy.
that's pretty loud. So if the Supreme Lord is sleeping and you wake him up from your and that's we can we can see in the Ramayana how much effort it took to wake up Kumbhakarna, right? But then now what to speak of the person who is a very source of Kumbhakarna, and Kumbhakarna is just like a amsha, not like just like a 1 millionth, or just like a small mamai vamsho jiva loki jiva bhuta sanatana, separated part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? But just imagine how loud that call must be, that the Supreme Lord woke up and he decided that he has to come into this material world in order to give the living entities atyanta durlabha prema koribare dan sikaya sharanagati bhakatira pran. He came to give us the highest. We almost sung that bhajan by accident today, but his loud roars. It says loud roars called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down to give the living and the most fallen the highest thing possible. So this is very important, right? We can understand that Advaita Acharya is playing such an important role in bringing down Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and and then it's said that then when it was time of Gaura Purnima, Haridas Thakur and Advaita Acharya were bathing in the Ganga, and while they were bathing, they were feeling ecstatic, thinking, "Oh, the Lord is going to appear." Thank God. And then they were chanting, Hari, 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 Hari. They were all chanting really loudly. And then all the Hindus also were bathing in the Ganga at that time, because it's a very auspicious time to bathe during the full moon, Purnima. So they were also bathing, and they were all looking at these two chanting Hari Hari. They were all chanting Hari Hari Hari, and then like the chanting was so loud that even the Muslims who were there, they started to hear it, and they started to mock them, ah ha ha, Hari Hari, Hari Hari, like that. And everyone, all living entities who could speak or chant were all chanting Hari Hari by the influence of the chanting of Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur. Right? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, and then uh, Advaita Acharya's home is very close to the place where Jagannath Mishra had his home, and every day for this Bhagavatam class or the Bhagavad Gita class that Advaita Acharya would hold, Vishwarupa would be coming. Vishwarupa is the older brother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vishwarupa would be coming to attend these classes, and he would be feeling great ecstasy just hearing Advaita Acharya speak. And, from hearing Advaita Acharya speak, all the devotees would become completely ecstatic, completely absorbed. But then, when it was afternoon, they would start the class in the morning, and the class would just go on and on and on, and the devotees would be so ecstatic, it would be amazing, they would be completely absorbed. But then, everyone's absorption would be completely broken when the small boy would just walk in, and all of them would feel extreme attraction towards him. And that boy was none other than little Nimai, right? Little Lord Chaitanya. He would come to call Vishwarup, saying, "Mother is calling you to eat lunch. Mother is calling." So, and all the devotees would wonder, we were just completely absorbed in rasa, tasting the rasa of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But how are we attracted to the small baby? How are we feeling the same attraction for the small baby? And you see, in any village in India, babies are naked. They're just like 4 years old, 5 years old, like I don't know, maybe younger than that, but whatever. Babies are naked. The young kids are naked, and so there's like why is that meditation breaking, and why are we so attracted to this small baby? We've seen so many babies running around, but why is it that this baby is so attractive? Right? And then they realize, eventually they start to realize who Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. So Advaita Acharya is a very unique person. Of course, he's a very unique person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he performed a very important role in this whole propagation of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said actually in one play that he was once performing, he played the role of Advaita Acharya. Very fitting role for Srila Prabhupada, actually. Right? So, so Advaita Acharya, he performed this. And then, to give more context to the verse that we just read about how initially when Advaita Acharya was on the planet, all his disciples had one opinion, but then once he left, they started to have two opinions, right? And because they're having an opinion different from their Acharya, their entire life, entire line, everything got ruined. The one who had a different opinion than Advaita Acharya. So to give a little context to this is that Advaita Acharya is a Kulin Brahmin, right? He's born where he appeared in an extremely exalted Brahmana lineage, right? And of course, as you can imagine, sometimes when people do not apply the principles of high parentage, high lineage, high opulence, high whatever it may be, when they don't apply the principle of surrendering unto the bona fide spiritual master, or displaying Brahmanatva, right? Because the symptom of knowledge, right? What's the symptom of one who has knowledge? Is amanitvam adhambitvam. That's a very important thing. Amanitvam adhambitvam, right? That's a symptom of a person who has knowledge. And in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, Krishna says that how do you know a person he's realized Jnana Agni Dugdha, that all his material conceptions are burnt in the fire of transcendental knowledge. That's how you know a person is, he knows what is right action, what is wrong action. So, unless a person is properly fixed in this, it's obvious that those born in high families, they become proud of their birth. They become proud of so many things. And then, when they become so proud of their birth and all these things, then they start to impose themselves. Instead of commanding respect, they start to demand respect. In order to demand respect, they become, if you're demanding respect from a particular society, then you basically have to become a slave to the whims and fantasies of the society that you're living in, right? If you want to have a lot of respect in a society, let's just say you're in prison, if you want to have a lot of respect amongst the prisoners, one way you could do it is you could be the best criminal amongst all of them. You know, this guy just shot someone because he got angry, but here this guy, he's like a serial killer and he's killed so many people and he was such a big kingpin and this and that, right? So, and then they have to show themselves to be a great, whatever, a great criminal. Or another thing you could do is you could be extremely God conscious, and that God consciousness could actually affect the prisoners around you. Now, there's this description of a Sri Vaishnava Acharya who was, by some karmic mistake or something, he was sent to go to the hellish planets. And he was hellish, subterranean heavenly planets, you could say like that, where the Rakshasas are also there. But also, it's a place, where there's, I don't remember exactly which planet he was sent to, but it was a place where there's like a lot of demoniac living entities. And he went there, he was there, and he thought, okay, I'm here, so what else is there to do but worship Lord Vishnu? And then he started worshipping Lord Vishnu, and then all the demons and the Daityas were very upset with him, and they started like to destroy his worship and this and that. But just by the power of his purity and his preaching, all of them became devotees. And he's a very celebrated, all the Rakshasas and the Daityas and all of them, they
Bali
became...
Maharaj? Sorry,
No, no,
Prabhu.
no, not Bali Maharaj. This is some. I'm forgetting the name of this Acharya. I heard it in Guru Maharaj's lecture.
Oh.
Um, but he, just by the power of his preaching, all these Rakshasas and Daityas were becoming devotees. So that's one way that's one way you command respect at that point of time, when you are fully self-realized, right? When you're fully God conscious, or at least when you're following properly what your predecessors have taught you. So, Advaita Acharya, being a Kulian Brahmana, he made this this obviously known to everyone, that he is not so conscious of caste, right? So, the main thing is that when you perform the Shraddha ceremony, there's this particular dish of sweet rice, right? That you're supposed to offer to the most qualified Brahmana. And whichever Brahmana receives that sweet rice, he is considered to be the most glorious, or the most elevated, right? Every Guru Maharaj, I remember him saying in one place that every Brahmin family thinks that their Brahmin family is the best. So whoever receives this patra, I'm forgetting the exact word for it, but this patra containing the sweet rice that is offered that's offered to in the Shraddha ceremony, whoever receives that, they are considered to be the top. Especially if you're offered that patra by Advaita Acharya, you're considered to be like the top Brahmin. You made it. Your family is actually the best. So when the Shraddha ceremony was there, many Brahmanas were there, and everyone thought Advaita Acharya is going to give it to me. And if he gives it to me, then like I could really flex and show everyone else that I'm the best Brahmin here, right? But what happened is that Advaita Acharya, much to the surprise of the smarta Brahmanas, what he did was he offered that patra of sweet rice to Haridas Thakur. And not only did he just offer it to him, he said, feeding Haridas Thakur first is equivalent to feeding more than 20 million highly qualified Brahmanas. So, as you can imagine, this would have really fried out the smarta Brahmanas who are in that kind of consciousness of being smartas and blah blah blah, all this other nonsense. And and Advaita, and then not only did he say that, he gave it to Haridas Thakur, who appeared in a Muslim family. Now this is just from a social perspective, not coming down to what society thinks should be done and should not be done. Why? Because he is completely he's performing the pastime of being a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as Advaita Acharya's family, they continued. There's one group of his sons, headed by Achyuta, who perfectly followed Advaita Acharya. But then there's another group of sons who did not. Right? And this section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we just read from is speaking about this. Right? I'd like to bring your attention to this really amazing verse composed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he says, Prakrita rasera shika bika shishye chayana rati bina jay rasa taha gurudena. Important point. The true disciples never desire to ask the spiritual master for instructions regarding material mellows. The genuine spiritual master never gives his disciples any such material mellows which are devoid of rati, transcendental loving attachment to the Lord. So, what does this mean? Right? That the spiritual master will never cheat his disciples. He'll never cheat his disciples by giving them some, less than standard stuff. Right? What's less than standard stuff that is spiritual? The least the spiritual master will give you is pure devotional service. Right? He will give you rati. He will give you all these things. But the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master, right? This is the point. The bona fide spiritual master will never pander to the material needs of the so-called disciples. Right? The disciples may be thinking, I want this, I want that, And then in one book that somebody has to, he was supposed to edit it and give it back to a Guru Maharaj as his Guru Dakshina, which he hasn't done yet. It's called The Spiritual Master and the Disciple, or something like this. The Guru Maharaj just composed thing. He's composed all the notes. This person just has to edit it and give it back to Guru Maharaj. In that there is a section. There is a line where Guru Maharaj writes that the bogus disciple, he thinks this. I've done so much service for my Guru Maharaj, so much service, right? You do this, you do that. You're in the hot sun, you're cooking, you're doing all these things for the spiritual master. The bogus disciple thinks, I've done so much service for my Guru Maharaj. Can't he give me a little sense gratification? Can't my spiritual master just give me just a little sense gratification? Just a little bit. What's the problem? He can give me a little sense gratification, right? What's the problem? And so such a mentality is considered to be suicidal, right? But the bogus disciple, he thinks, let me get a little sense gratification from my Guru. Just a little bit. But the bona fide spiritual master will never indulge his disciple in his material desires. Right? So we see that there is a whole branch of this Advaita tree which completely got disconnected from Advaita Acharya himself. Advaita Acharya is considered to be a trunk in the tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, like that trunk which just fell down.
That's really crazy, Prabhu.
It was two branches, like what was in the purport.
2 branches fell.
Wow. Just see, that's a sign. Right? We should not be like the branches which fell, but like the branches which stuck. So we say that we are not so concerned. We're not so concerned with getting even one drop or a small amount of sense gratification from the spiritual master. But rather, we want to gratify the sense of the spiritual master. What does it mean? Does it mean that you cook the best thing possible? Yes. Does it mean that you clean his clothes very nicely? Yes. Does it mean that you clean his room very nicely? Yes. But more than anything, we should listen properly to what the spiritual master wants. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Arna Koriyo Mani Ash. We must make the transcendental words emanating from the lotus mouth of the spiritual master one with our hearts. We should develop attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Shri Guru Sharani Rati, Ese Uttama Gati, Ye Prasadi Puri Sarva Ash. Guru Vakya Parama Mahatva. We should understand that the order of the spiritual master is of the topmost importance. If we don't understand these simple points, we are actually completely missing the point. That is why one is recommended that they find their spiritual master not with their eyes but with their ears. You find your spiritual master with your ears. You hear from him. You apply what he's teaching you. You do all this. Then you'll see. You'll get the supreme benediction. Now I can see I'm very happy and I guess in one sense also proud that Vishnuchitra Prabhu got to do the Pada Puja for Guru Maharaj and also did the Aarti to Guru Maharaj just now. Did you all see that? That was so ecstatic. We saw it. I was like feeling mixed emotions.
Wow.
But it was amazing. You can see it in the video. Vishnuchitra Prabhu, he washes Guru Maharaj's lotus feet. Amongst all the disciples that are there, and Vishnuchitra Prabhu is washing Guru Maharaj's lotus feet, and he's also doing the Aarti to Guru Maharaj. So that was fired up, to say the least. So, we can see that when the spiritual master is pleased, it's known. And you're not going to get any kind of sense gratification from pleasing the spiritual master. It's actually, if you're living with the spiritual master, it's actually not so pleasing to the senses sometimes, right? It's in the middle of the summer. It's so hot. And the room that he's staying is even more hot. And he just refuses to have a fan or an AC or an air cooler or anything. You're in there and you're just sweating like anything, talking to the spiritual master. It's not necessarily pleasing to the senses, right? You're traveling with the spiritual master, and you're not going to have enough prasadam sometimes. That's just how it goes. It's not, it's not every time, but sometimes it's like that. We've had the good fortune of traveling with the spiritual master sometimes. Sometimes, we would have to skip meals, You have to go to bed really late and then you have to wake up early, and then it's very embarrassing when the spiritual master comes and wakes you up.
Oh.
That's what happened. Vishnuchitra Prabhu and myself were serving Guru Maharaj in Charlotte, and we were serving, it was 12 o'clock at night, and we passed out. And then, and then all of a sudden, we hear, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh my God, we were 4:15. And then we have to offer obeisance to Guru Maharaj, and they run and get the work. They're this is so embarrassing. But it's not pleasing to the senses, right? To say the least, it's not pleasing to the senses. But it is pleasing to the transcendental senses. Sevan Mukhehi Jivado. Right? Rishi Kumar Prabhu was saying that he would have to perform the service of sleeping in the same room as his Guru Maharaj. As Guru Maharaj sleeps with all the lights on.
That's crazy.
I mean, firstly, Rishi Kumar Prabhu can't sleep well, and what to speak of sleeping with all the lights on? It's not pleasing to the senses, right? It's not pleasing to the senses when you're when you're serving the spiritual master like that, right? The bona fide disciple. Actually, nowadays we don't have that opportunity, but in the previous days, the disciple would have to fan the spiritual master while the spiritual master is sleeping.
Oh.
So all night, the disciple is fanning the Guru, right? Oh. And when the Guru wakes up, they say, okay, go take your nap. No, you just get up. Once the Guru gets up, you see that the Guru is about to awake, you go quickly take a shower, a bath, and then you mop the floor and you continue serving the spiritual master. And maybe the spiritual master will tell you to take rest. And if he'd ask you not to eat, you're not going to eat. Where is the sense gratification? No sense gratification, right? When you get close to the spiritual master, especially, there is no question of sense gratification. Nothing but the real thing. So this, we should understand, it should be the attitude of a disciple. But we are seeing, right? We see in this purport that we just read, that the two factions, right? They started to have their own opinions of what Advaita Acharya said and did. The thing is, Advaita Acharya is saying, or those who are followers of Advaita Acharya, they're saying that, you see, Advaita Acharya himself, offered so much respect to Haridas Thakur. He was all about the Sankirtan movement. Oh, we can't do that. Advaita Acharya, he is very special. We can't imitate Haridas. We can't imitate Advaita Acharya. Therefore, yes, we should stick to the Smarta principles. We should stick to this caste Brahmana consciousness. We should stick to that and reject all this Mahaprabhu stuff. Some of them accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God, but not Lord Nityananda is God. Some of them they listen to the mock fights between Advaita Acharya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu. They would have some mock fights. They would say sometimes Advaita Acharya would invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu would also come. And Advaita Acharya's wife would prepare a huge feast, right? Enough for feeding maybe 50 or 60 people, just for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu would look at it and say, "That's it? This is all you made?" And then Advaita Acharya would say, "You see, I don't know why you came to my house. We don't know who you are. We don't know what your caste is. First you're apparently a sannyasi, but then you got married, and then no one even knows where you were born. Oh, what a mistake I made by inviting such a person to my house." And so they would have their own mock fights, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have a great time watching both of them roast each other. Basically, that's what they would be doing. They would be roasting each other. Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu would be roasting each other. So, and Lord Chaitanya would get a great pleasure from hearing them do this. And he would laugh and all this. But obviously, everyone knew it was a mock fight. But then there are those rascal followers of Advaita Acharya who would take the mock fight very seriously and say, "Nityananda Prabhu said this, and he said that," and they just became very offensive to Lord Nityananda, not according to what Advaita Acharya's desires are. That's why we see in the next verses, and we'll go back to the purport. We see over here Kehata Acharya Agyaya Kehata Tata Swatantra Swamata Kalpana Kare Daiva Paratantra. Some of the disciples strictly accepted the orders of the Acharya, and others deviated, independently concocting their own opinions under the spell of Daivi Maya. This verse describes the beginning of a schism. Right? I think these exact words were posted on our Kirtan group. When disciples do not stick to the principle of accepting the order of their spiritual master, immediately there are two opinions. Any opinion different from the opinion of the spiritual master is useless. It's useless, I don't care what you think about, anything, but this is the opinion of the spiritual master. One cannot infiltrate materially concocted ideas into spiritual advancement. That is deviation. There is no scope for adjusting spiritual advancement to material ideas. This is a very heavy purport. And then we can see this also. There's a killer verse coming up. This is it. This is really awesome. Acharya mata jay say matasar tar angya langi chale seta asar. The order of the spiritual master is the active principle in the spiritual life. How many times have you heard Srila Prabhupada saying this? Acharya mata jay say matasar. How many times have you heard him say this? The order of the spiritual master is the active principle in the life the order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. How many times Prabhupada has said this, right? Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Tand agya langi chale steta asar. Useless. Purport. Here is the opinion of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Persons who strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, whereas persons who deviate from the strict order of the spiritual master are useless. So this is the purport Srila Prabhupada is making when talking about the followers of Advaita Acharya. Asarera nama iha nahi prayojan beda jani bari kari ekatra ganan. Then he says there's no need to name those who are useless. I have mentioned them only to distinguish them from the useful devotees. So at least we can see the followers of those, the names of the followers. Okay, Okay, this is a very, very heavy example. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, therefore we're reading it. Danya Rashi Mape Yaiche Patna Sahite Pashata Patna Udaya Samskara Karite. Paddy is mixed with straw at first, and one must fan it to separate the paddy from the straw. The example given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is very appropriate. In the case of the Gaudiya Math members, one can apply a similar process. There are many disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but to judge who is actually a disciple, to divide the useful from the useless, one must measure the activities of such disciples in executing the will of the spiritual master. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tried his best to spread the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to countries outside India. When he was present, he patronized the disciples to go outside India to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they were unsuccessful. Why? Because within their minds, they were not actually serious about preaching his cult in foreign countries. They simply wanted to take credit for having gone to foreign lands and utilize the recognition in India by advertising themselves as, how do you say this word?
Which one?
Appreciate.
Come on, I'm sharing the screen. So
Repatriated? I don't know. I never heard it before. Repatriated?
Repatriated preachers. Many Swamis have adopted this hypocritical means of preaching for the last 80 years or more. But no one could preach the cult of Krishna consciousness all over the world. They merely came back to India falsely advertising themselves that they had converted all the foreigners to the ideas of Vedanta or Krishna consciousness. And then they collected funds in India and lived satisfied life of material comforts. As one fans paddy to separate the real paddy from the useless straw, by accepting the criterion recommended by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, one can very easily understand who is a genuine world preacher and who is useless. Right? And then anyway, the purports which are there, which are after this also are pretty heavy. But we get the point, at least to some degree. Right? That this is not just some nice historical grounds or some nice stories from the past that Srila Prabhupada is telling us, like, oh wow, okay, nice. So that's how it was during Advaita Acharya's time. Nice, good to know. And now when we read it, oh okay, I see, that's what happened during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. That was about 100 years ago. That was in Bengal. That doesn't apply to us, right? We can think so many things. But actually, realistically speaking, we can see that this is going on right here, right now in the Krishna consciousness movement, where there is a whole section in the Mood and actually the Mood and Mission opens up with what? What does it say? Useful and useless followers of Srila Prabhupada, right? And in that, it's described, it's mentioned so clearly who's useless, who's useful. So we can see that the same thing which happened during Advaita Acharya's time, the same thing which happened during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time is happening right now in front of our eyes. Because nowadays there are some people who have opinions different from Srila Prabhupada's opinions, which is basically Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that we just said, is completely useless. Because we are seeing this. Then they are coming up with very, very creative ideas as to how to forget Srila Prabhupada's instructions. How can we prove Srila Prabhupada that actually he was just a smiling old man who didn't know what he was talking about? Nice guy, but for the most part he got most of the things wrong. Right? There's books being released. Basically the title of the books is the latest way to blaspheme Srila Prabhupada. And it's approved by many persons in the ecclesiastical orders. They are trying to push forward ideas and agendas which are terrible for the propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement. And the propagation of these things, the propagation of these ideas, are actually going to be extremely detrimental to the Krishna consciousness movement. Because why? Because more and more we are detaching ourselves from the trunk of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, right? We are branching off, and not only are we branching off is okay as long as we're connected, but we are becoming disconnected, We're being disconnected. And because we're being disconnected, we see that many funny ideas come up, that many temples, they have their kirtan scenes. And the kirtan scenes are a nice place for men and women to hook up. We are hearing just recently from a person who has some knowledge about this, that this the kirtan scene has become a hookup scene, right? There is no Bhagavatam class in most temples. The deity worship is a farce, with the exception of a few temples. I really appreciate the deity worship in New Dwarka and maybe a few places, but you see, most places is a farce. The guy who's worshipping the deity is just doing it just so he can get his green card, and as soon as he gets it, thank you, Haribol, I'm going to go and fill up gas in the gas station. Or drive Uber now. Nowadays we can drive Uber. Right? So many things are going on right now. Why? Because we are neglecting Srila Prabhupada's order to establish Daivavarnashram Dharma. Instead of establishing Daivavarnashram Dharma, now we are very eager to infiltrate our concocted ideas into spiritual life, to make spiritual adjustments to suit our material life, right? So we're trying to do all this, and because we're trying to do all this, it's all completely destroyed. It's all completely ruined. And that's why we can see in the I hope I have the. Oh man. Oh yeah, I have it. Chandan, if I sent it to you, could you put it up on the screen?
Yeah.
Because of this heavy offense of Guru Avagya, of ignoring Srila Prabhupada's order of establishing Daivavarnashram Dharma, we are facing so many consequences to this. Right? You can play this. And we can see also another point, that nowadays it's like, you can play this, and then we could. How do you increase the volume?
It's on the soundbar. Yeah.
There's no sound.
I can't hear anything.
There's no sound to the video.
There's no sound? Really? Sound on my phone.
Even
No.
one sentence
I don't know, it's
discussing
not playing on my computer.
they have
Yeah, maybe you have to unmute your thing.
We could just hear it from his phone, maybe. That
Okay.
sounded fine.
If that doesn't work, you want to try one more time?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
So I'm saying, I can't be that stupid.
might have to switch the audio source.
Maybe it's playing through your earphones or something. I don't know.
No, it's not connected to my earphone.
Okay, I'll just play it through my phone then.
Given a message that we are not going to follow Srila Prabhupada's repeated, even in one sentence discussing Varnashram, they have given a message that we are not going to follow Srila Prabhupada's repeated order to make an alternative to human society by instituting Varnashram. In this way, the GBC has acted as enemies of Srila Prabhupada's instruction, and we cannot expect any auspiciousness for this Guru Avagya, deliberate avoidance of a repeatedly stated prime order of Srila Prabhupada. So this FDG thing, female Diksha Guru, it's just a manifestation of the ISKCON leadership's ongoing war against Srila Prabhupada's clearly stated instructions. Maharaj,
Very well said.
by not even
Very well put. So we can see that, we're not trying to rise up some controversy or something like that. There's just what's going on. And we're reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, and we are applying them to the current situation which is going on. And it is just becoming ridiculous. How can you read Srimad Bhagavatam? How can you read Srila Prabhupada's books and have all these kind of insane, feministic, concocted ideas? These are all warnings from Advaita Leela, by the way. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj has a lecture called Warnings from Advaita Leela. So, I'm also saying that of course, what else can I say? But these are all warnings from Advaita Leela. These are all warnings because these things happen. Oh, Advaita Acharya, he's a smarta. He was very great, but we had to stick to our smarta Brahman principles. Same thing, same nonsense. It's like being a Christian but not following the Bible. Right? It's as ridiculous as that. So how can we be followers of Srila Prabhupada and not care to establish the Varnashram? Now you see, you go into most temples, it's just like a Hindu storytelling community hall. We were saying this yesterday. It's just that. Demigods are showing up on the altars, now at ISKCON centers. Many things like this are going on. So we should be very careful. Right? Prabhupada, you see, the way he ascribes his success in the first purport that we read, this is, okay, you can see this over here, and I'll end it by reading this. So over here, Prabhupada ends his purport by saying, therefore, by the result of their actions, one should know that they are asar or useless, whereas the success of the ISKCON party, International Society of Krishna Consciousness, which strictly follows Guru and Gauranga, is increasing daily all over the world. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to print as many books as possible and distribute them all over the world. We have tried our best in this connection. We are getting results beyond our expectations. So, we should see. We should see this, right? We should see that who is following the orders of Srila Prabhupada and who is not. Right? That is why we've been gifted this hat which says Books and Farms.
Yay!
So we have to have, this is the right vision, right? We have to have the books and the farms. Book distribution without farm communities is like one hand clapping. So we don't want to have this one hand clapping business. We want to have everything. We want to have everything Srila Prabhupada said. And it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be fun. I think we're all experiencing that in our own flavor of that experience. But nonetheless, we should push forward with this. We should distribute books the way Prabhupada taught us to distribute books, and we could expand from the ideas that Srila Prabhupada gave. We should not, just raise a bunch of money and act like books have been distributed. Or one temple was very anxious that we would beat them in the Christmas marathon. So what they did is they sold, I don't know how many pallets, maybe 20 or maybe more pallets of Bhagavad Gitas to some other temple for 80 cents a pop, so that temple could make money to take care of their program which is failing, and they could make sure that they beat Christian life. So the minute they start to do such kind of cheap tricks, it's already admitting defeat. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's like Jarasandha thought that his enemies had come, Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. They thought they come disguised as Brahmanas because they're too afraid to fight with him. And they would just ask him, they ask him for his life, and he would gladly give it, because actually by giving his life like that, he would actually be considered victorious. So when they do cheap tricks like this, it's not that anyone is defeated, it's just admitting the defeat in another way. So we should continue distributing books like that. It's very important, actually. We should continue. And all this, I remember there's this really nice clip from another lecture which I have saved. Let me see if I can pull this up. I definitely did. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So all this, good impression stuff and all this, this we can see.
The main thing is not to leave a good impression. The main thing is to leave a book. But you should leave a good impression also. It's not we leave a good impression and maybe a book also. But we should leave a book and a good impression. The book distribution should be done.
So we should say that our goal is to distribute books, and the good impression will come as we develop our skill and we do all these things. So we should not be so coming down to the public's opinion. We should go ahead, full force, distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, do it in an intelligent way, do it in a level-headed way, and then also establish the varnashram farms. And by doing this, we can expect to receive the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. If we are not doing this, then we're going to suffer in this material world. We're going to just be just another movement Now the Hare Krishnas are in the Hindu box, or then now we're in the yoga box. What's the point? We're completely unique. What Srila Prabhupada came to offer us is completely unique. And therefore, we must be very diligent to understand the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada. So be very diligent. Future historians will note this book, The Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada, for saving the Krishna consciousness movement in its darkest hour. It's really dark right now. We have many people who are blaspheming Srila Prabhupada, but those who understand the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, they will be immensely benefited. So I'll end the class over here. If there's any questions or comments, we could take them now.
Yeah. So, Maharaj, anyways, if devotees have been keeping up with some of the classes, I think it was yesterday morning. It's kind of hard to kind of the time and everything.
Yeah.
It might be number 4, I think, or 3.
It's like when you heard it, that's the time.
Yeah,
Yesterday
yeah.
morning's class.
Yeah, it's like I just don't. But he was just mentioning that after the spiritual master leaves, disciples feel a relief. Did you hear that? You heard that yet?
No, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
We are listening
Disciples-
to every lecture during every meal. So
Disciples feel relief that the spiritual master has left because, you know.
now I can do whatever damn thing I want.
Yeah, but it was just that there was so much pushing and pressure and difficulty, and now that he's left, now that's kind of the pressure is off. So just kind of using the verse that you were speaking on, is that it's the same kind of principle there, that as soon as one feels that the pressure is off now, then you become asar. So when there's 2 types of disciples there, is the same principle that's being described by Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, that when I leave, you might feel that the pressure is off now, and you feel, oh, he was so pushing, now he's gone, and I can now have a little more comfortable life. And so, as Prabhupada says, that as soon as the spiritual life and easygoing life and Krishna consciousness don't go well together,
life
they go
and
ill
attainment
together.
of self-realization go ill together.
So as soon as one feels, or one is kind of feeling pressure, when the spiritual masters, he's just pushing me, one should feel inspired, not self-inspired in his spiritual life. And if he's not there yet, he should learn how to get there. That he's not pushing just for the sake because the spiritual master is there. He's pushing because he understands what the purpose of the spiritual master is. That is there, of course, but the more, like he was saying, first comes the books and then the thing, but first comes the instructions of the guru, and then, okay, when the guru's around, we want to do as much as we can for him, but not that because when he leaves, okay, I did, like you're saying, I did so much for the guru.
So now I can enjoy just little self-gratification.
Yeah, it's just one should develop that consciousness and be ready that I'm not just doing this because the guru is there. I'm doing this because the instruction is there. And the instruction is there with me for life. So I'm taking shelter of that. Yeah. Because we see that in that first section you're mentioning is a lot of discussion in that is Vapu and Vapus and different disciples of Srila Prabhupada saying that Srila Prabhupada actually being in your presence was way more than what your books are. I'm paraphrasing, and that I felt way more connected with. But Guru Maharaj was saying that even great devotees were saying like this, devotees and great stalwart disciples of Srila Prabhupada. But Guru Maharaj was saying, no, this is off, because actually so many other book distributors just never met him, Prabhupada, like Gayatri Prabhupada never even met Prabhupada, were feeling the presence of Srila Prabhupada all the time. And so it's just important to recognize that in our life, whether the spiritual master is in close proximity in terms of physical proximity or not, that we have the same attitude and mood in terms of our service. Of course, when he's there, we want to put in extra work on top of all the extra work that we already have on us. But specifically just to cultivate that mood that, okay, this is the disciple in time takes upon the mission of the spiritual master and continues it. And so one should have that spirit in his life, not that I'm just going because the spiritual master is here. Or one only feels inspired when the spiritual master is around. Of course, we naturally feel inspired, and Maharaj makes that point in that book also, that Vapu is very good in order to give us that initial inspiration and vision into spiritual life. But at a certain point, one has to become attached to the Vani more than the Vapu and continue his spiritual life like that. So one shouldn't look at the pushing, and that was the main point he was saying throughout that lecture also, that you may, I'm pushing and some may get burnt, and some disciples feel burnt by me in the past. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to
Harm you. Yeah.
harm you. I care for you. I don't have anything to get out of this. I genuinely care for you. I'm sorry you feel like that. I'm sorry. And yeah, you may get burnt. And then he was even saying that some sincere devotees won't go back to God in this life. Most will, but some won't.
What?
And he was just making the point that, just that go on. I've done this. I've kept this thing strict, and I would like it to go on. So please, you take it up and you push it on and keep this mood and spirit alive. Our success will be when the grandchildren of one Gurukul student, he was saying his grandchildren are devotees and they're chanting and dancing. That will be our success, real success.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of making the point that just this, and he was making the point that discomfort in Krishna consciousness is the bliss. Samadhi, what is it? He was saying that
Work now, samadhi now.
samadhi later. But if you work now very hard for Krishna, you will find that it's not different. The samadhi now also, they're the same thing. So we should see, we should really, really try to just see through that vision of, I'm not just working for the sake of working. I'm not working for the sake of just because my spiritual master will hear my name on a board or an announcement and he'll be happy. Those are all things that are nice, but I'm really working for this Vani and really working to please the whole Guru Parampara. And I know that this will please my spiritual master because it's the instruction I'm getting for him and fulfilling, but there's more than just recognition here. There's more than just this, we might people come in with that mundane conception that, if my guru can hear my name, if my guru can, learn that I'm doing so many big things, he'll be happy. But if we're just running on that, it won't last. But if we're just running on whatever it takes, let me do it. I don't care, who glorifies me, who doesn't glorify me, whether he hears or not. I'm serving sincerely, and let me work hard. Let me do my service nicely. One has to just be self-inspired, like I was saying yesterday or the day before. I think in one of the comments is saying that it's up to the individual to make that decision. No institution can do that to you. No institution can make you a surrendered devotee. It can help you in that process by having a proper institution and lay out the proper path. But ultimately, it's up to you to really take that position to go and follow that, follow the spiritual master.
Yeah. I just found a quote of Srila Prabhupada where he says, be engaged in glorifying the parampara system and your life will be glorified automatically, thousands of times. Furthermore, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna instructs Acharya Upasana. The Acharya should be worshipped and glorified. As a disciple, it is my duty to glorify my spiritual master. So, there's one thing which is there that you think that, once the spiritual master leaves, then the pressure is off. But then for the bona fide disciple, the spiritual master never leaves. He never leaves. That he's always there with the spiritual master because he's always thinking, if I were to act this way or behave this way, how would Guru Maharaj think? How would Guru Maharaj feel? So, in one sense, it's the disappearance of the spiritual master. But the spiritual master never leaves his bona fide disciple. He'll never leave those who are constantly endeavoring to fulfill the mission of the spiritual master. The spiritual master never leaves, actually. For those who, can we say that that Srila Prabhupada left Guru Maharaj and Guru Maharaj is not? No. He's always, unless someone is always with Srila Prabhupada, they cannot compile the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada. It is just not possible. Right? When you're reading that book, have you ever wondered how the heck someone could write such a book? For me, every time I'm reading this book, I'm thinking, it's literally impossible for someone to write this book. It is so detailed, so amazing. How? Because he's constantly with the Vani of his Guru Maharaj. And we can say that every day he's striving harder and harder and harder to please Srila Prabhupada. Why are we, doing whatever little we are doing? Because we're seeing how he's outdoing us in every field. Right? Our Guru Maharaj is outdoing us in every field. That's why we are trying to do something little bit here and there. Right? So we say that the spiritual master, he's He's there, he's pushing, and all this. And then for the bona fide disciple, we can actually see and understand that once the spiritual master disappears, then that intensity should increase even more. That the spiritual master gives us orders which I don't know if we'll fulfill in this life. Right? For example, if to make Prabhupada wants every gentleman to have a set of Srimad Bhagavatam in their home, Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita in their home. I mean, just think of all the Bhagavatam sets we distributed without a CC set. That itself, that's already gone. And there's so many more. There's so many more instructions like that of the spiritual master. We have to strive to fulfill it. And Guru Maharaj says, you can please me by pleasing Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, for the bogus guys, oh, thank God the Guru is gone. Now I can just, have a nice material life and do a little Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, and then life is good. And then you have a whole followers, a whole sampradaya of such people also. So yeah, we should be careful, and we should always know, for the bona fide disciple, the spiritual master never leaves. Prabhupada actually writes in one purport that a disciple who is very diligent in following every order of the spiritual master, once the spiritual master disappears, the Paramatma becomes visible to him.
Well,
That's
He's
great.
always with the Paramatma. Actually, it's in the third canto. Of course, Mahotsaha Das is such a dumb idiot. He can't remember the words. But it's 2 lines. It's only 2 lines. And it says that the false ego melts away and the Jivatma gets darshan of the Paramatma. And you have that the whole time. Imagine how many books you could sell if you had that. You know what I mean? Direct Paramatma darshan. That'll be huge. But anyway, we should while the vapu of the spiritual master is on the planet, we should diligently strive to follow, and then when the spiritual master disappears, then Paramatma we can see. So anything else? Yes.
I had a question because in the verse today, that you covered, you spoke about the schism being ordained by providence.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also see that these people were acting and having these misconceptions and being further pushed to follow them. It says by Daivi Maya. So, I mean, obviously, material nature is under control of the Supreme Personality of God himself, but I'm just trying to understand, I guess, what's the, is it just for the sake of misleading the insincere, or how do we,
I mean, you see, is yeyatha mam prapadyante tam staiva jamyam. Right? So, mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Right? The Krishna reciprocates accordingly.
and what, sorry.
So so if a person is actually materially motivated and he comes to the spiritual master with material motivations, he's going to get his material desires fulfilled, right? But if a person is not materially motivated and he's spiritually motivated, then he will follow properly, and then Krishna will give him that. Ultimately, whatever you're putting in, you're going to be getting. I gave this. I told you this story yesterday. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur story. Do you remember what the story was?
Yesterday you told this.
Yeah, from a story that he made.
How does it go?
Yeah, like the blacksmith with the poor quality steel.
Oh yeah, the metal. Yeah, you get the same. Yeah,
That's same principle applies. That those who came with poor quality steel, they got that kind of a knife. Those who came with good quality steel, they got a knife which works. You can't blame the spiritual master. Or you can't blame providence. You can't blame all this.
and what's the destination? I guess of I remember we had a discussion about this last year. I think we were at your brother's house. We were up late, just kind of discussing. We were talking a lot of
the classic Krishna life bhav.
right. Talking about just people who for example, they're pious in one sense. You go to the temple. They might even go to Mongol Arti, for example, and they're chanting Hare Krishna, and they leave their body, and they're doing the same thing, just chanting Hare Krishna. It's birth after birth after birth. So I mean, is that ultimately what?
And that time I told you the same thing I'm going to tell you now. Bahu janma kariyadi Shravan Kirtan tabutana pai Krishna pade premata. You can go on chanting the holy name for many, many millions of births, but if you're committing these offenses against the holy name, you'll never get love of Godhead, which is the ultimate goal of this chanting. If you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're following the four regulative principles, but you have material desires, what do you become? A demigod. You go to the heavenly planets. Right? You're not performing any impious activity. You're chanting Hare Krishna. You're following the four regulative principles. You don't really want to go back home, back to Godhead. So there's one nice place for you called Swarga Loka. Go there and jump up and down with the Apsaras. Yeah, exactly. That's right. You jump up and down with the Apsaras and try to have a good time there. And then you come back down. What do you get in return? Gata gatam kama kama labante. You simply get repeated birth and death. Come back down, chant some more Hare Krishna. Hopefully you don't offend any devotees and go to hell. But if you don't, you do chant more some more Hare Krishna, continue with your material life, lead some fired up kirtans. Hopefully you don't have illicit sex. I guess it really depends. Especially these days, the Gandharva boys and girls, they're not doing too good in our movement.
Not going to Swarga.
You know what I mean?
They're going to Swarga.
They're going somewhere else. They're trying to make Swarga in like a really,
Pavarga.
yeah, rundown county of Florida. But yeah, that's on them, But yeah, what's going to happen? That's what's going to happen to these people. That is why, Prabhu, it's always a good idea to be in the all or nothing state of mind. Just give it all you got. You've come here, might as well go back home, back to Godhead.
Mm.
Like there is no other option. Like, dude, don't just wait around, waste some time and just, gratify. Just Grihastha, Brahmacharya, it doesn't matter. Just go back home, back to Godhead. That's the point. Don't waste your time in this worse than useless sense gratification. It's not worth it. If you're good at controlling the gross sense gratification, then start working on the subtle sense gratification. The sense gratification that you receive, that you feel when you're getting praised. Once you get rid of that, you can be the spiritual master of the three worlds, actually. So, we're here. So, might as well just go through the whole treatment. You're in the hospital. The disease is serious. The treatment is serious. Just take the serious treatment. It is what it is. You're going to get sauced out. You're going to get chastised. You're going to get smashed. You're going to get put through the ringer. You're going to get burnt. You're going to get crushed. You're going to get squeezed. But you'll come out successful.
Mm.
But might as well come out successful. That's the point. Otherwise, what's the use of being? Remember, can you imagine? You die and then you go to your Guru Maharaj, like, yeah, I kind of spaced out. I'm really sorry. Can you imagine? Do you want to, Guru Maharaj, I really tried and I really tried to distribute books and I really tried to help with the farms and, I didn't break the four regulative principles. I just stuck to your lotus feet as much as I'm sorry I'm a failure, but I really tried. At least at the end of our life, we can tell Guru Maharaj, I really tried. And that's worth it. Otherwise, if you just lollygagged, what's the point?
I tried, Guru Maharaj. I tried. I swear I tried.
I tried, Guru Maharaj. I tried while watching an NFL game to turn off the TV, but the Patriots were winning. I had to see it. We can't say stuff like that to the Guru, So something worth saying. Rushuk, you look like you're eagerly going to say something, which I'm eager to hear.
I was just about to carry on the jokes for a second, but
okay,
it wrapped up ready before I could jump.
Let's hear it.
It wasn't what I thought it was.
Yeah, it wasn't what I thought it was. We don't want to say all this kind of stuff to this question, man. We want to give it all we got. We're here. We might as well give it all we got. What's the point? Try our level-headed best and then try some more. That's the point. Okay? Anything else?
No. Okay. One thing. Let me stop the live stream here.
Okay, and also we'd like to thank Jai Gaura Prabhu for joining us all the way from China.
Jai.
Laura.
He's the one who